Hey, welcome to Two Tired Teachers. We have some exciting news we'd like to share with you. We are headed to Alaska, and
not right now, but we're planning that. We're getting there.
yes, and we want to talk to you about some of the planning we've done for the trip, so that should you decide, I think I'll pull the trigger on that one too, you'll have an idea of what we did to plan.
We're going to kind of divide this into planning, kind of the logistics side, and then preparing the tangible side.
Yes.
Maybe the best way to think about it. For us, the planning really started with making the decision to go.
Yes, and we weren't sure exactly. And then about the time I was pretty sure but hadn't bothered to tell Sharon, she decided she doesn't want to go, and so we finally got it together.
Well, one of the things that really kind of helped us is our trip to Yellowstone.
Yes.
By that point, we had pretty well decided,
Yeah.
we're gonna go. It's intimidating, it's overwhelming, but we think we should do it. And on that trip, we mentioned to a number of people that look kind of like us. They're not in their 20s, they're not in their 30s. And every single one that we said we're
Without
thinking
exception.
about it, everyone said,
Go.
I've been, and I'd love to go again. If you get a chance, go. And so that really helped us.
Yes.
And then, so where do you start? And so we started, one of the places we started was where you are, YouTube.
Yeah.
We started watching other people, their channels of people who have been to Alaska. And
a bunch of them talked about mile marker or
the milepost. Yeah. And so one of the things I'm going to be trying to do, and I'm going to be showing you this in this video, and then as we go, is I'm going to show you maps, because very few of the ones that we watched showed maps. And we're seeing that they've stopped at Banff. We're seeing they've stopped at Dawson Creek. They've stopped at Dawson City. They've stopped at Watson Lake. Whatever.
That's it.
Laird. Where are these places?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I've never heard of Tok, Alaska. And so one of the things we just started with was whenever they said they stopped somewhere, it was like, okay, that looks interesting. Let's make a list of places that look interesting. And that is going to help you decide on a route. And you'll see there really are basically two ways to get up there or back. And so that helped. And another thing that helped is, so we watched lots of videos and lots of different people. And I got to tell you, I think we watched, maybe 6 different channels where they had taken the trip. And every channel mentioned something that someone else hadn't.
Yes.
So we were able to kind of pick and choose. Oh, well, we haven't seen that before. Let's look at that.
Sounds kind of quirky and fun.
And so the theme of ours is going to be Alaska on a budget. Budget's not going to be cheap.
No.
But we are not, we had talked about this. We are not going to take any chartered helicopters, planes, or boats.
Yeah.
That's just not going to, we're retired teachers. That's not going to be in our budget.
If we have an excursion, both of us are just, I really need to see this.
Yeah.
We'll probably spend maybe 100, maybe even 2. Probably not 2, but maybe. If it's something we think we have to do.
But we decided the excursion is getting to go to Alaska.
Yes.
We're going to go. We're going to have an amazing time.
Yes.
But we're not going to spend thousands of dollars on charters. That's just not who we are.
If you can, enjoy yourself.
Go for it. Do it. But we want to encourage the rest of you, understand it's not going to be a cheap trip, but you don't have to spend thousands of dollars to have a great time.
Yeah.
So our planning, 5,000 miles from here, where we're sitting right now, to Fairbanks, give or take. That's overwhelming. That just makes my head hurt. And so when I started looking at it, I thought, wait a minute. We just went to Yellowstone last year. That gets us to the up to Glacier last year. That gets us to the Canadian border.
Yeah.
So a third of it, it's done. Then I looked at Alaska. Yes, Alaska is massive. But the paved roads in Alaska fit well within the heart of Texas. Essentially, there's a triangle, and I'll show you. You enter at Tok. That's where you're going to go into Alaska. I'd never heard of it, but it's where you're going to go in. Then you can go up to Fairbanks, go down past Denali to Anchorage, and come back to Tok. Now, from that, you can go off into Denali, or there's what's called the Kenai Peninsula, because it's on the Kenai River. Town of Kenai is there. That peninsula that goes all the way down to Homer and Whittier, Seward. There's a lot of stuff that's on that peninsula. Then there's another road that goes down to Valdez. But everything comes off of that triangle.
Yeah, that's about it.
So I'm like, we're 2/3 of the way through. Now I'm feeling a whole lot better.
Yes.
And so then it's, most people go up the Alaska-Canadian Highway and come, and a lot of people go up and come back that same way. That's great. Or they'll come back what's called the Cassiar Highway. And that's where you can go over to Hyder, Alaska, when you're in British Columbia.
Which one's top of the world?
There is one other choice you make. And that is, as you're going, if you want to go off of the Alaska-Canadian Highway right when you get to Whitehorse, you can go up to Dawson City, which is a historic mining town. That part is paved. There's a section then where once you get to Dawson, you actually do take a free ferry across the Yukon River, because it's free, because it's considered part of the highway. Highways in Alaska does not mean that it's paved. But from there, then you go to the border crossing that lets you into Chicken, Alaska. That border crossing is the northernmost border crossing in the world. And it's just kind of a quirky, neat thing. And we had said all along, nope, we're not doing that. We don't want to drive on gravel highways. Because we had watched so many channels, not all of them took it, but we saw a channel we were watching. They had joined with a caravan for a short period of time. Yeah. Folks, this caravan had motorhomes, it had senior citizens, it had all kinds of people driving across this top of the world highway where there's a lot of it that's gravel. And that made me feel a whole lot more comfortable about driving that. And then we heard some people say that actually the gravel road was smoother than sections of the Alcan.
Because of the heaves.
Well, and the potholes or whatever. And so that's the route we're planning at this point. And so that's kind of how our planning process has gone.
Yes.
Hope it serves us well. The hard part here is, when we became very serious about this is going to happen, we knew we wanted to stay in Denali National Park.
Yes.
And we wanted to stay at the Teklanika campground.
Yes.
It's unique. The road at this point is not open all the way, the whole 72 miles or whatever it is. There's been a landslide, but to go past the 15-mile mark on the scenic drive, you have to take a bus. Unless you're staying at that Teklanika campground, and then you get to go 29 miles.
However, once you park your vehicle, you can't move that from where it's parked.
And you have to stay at least 3 consecutive nights. And they do that because they don't want a lot of traffic. And so
And it's
you
good-
can leave on foot, you
Yes.
can leave on a bike, or you can get a pass and ride the bus.
Yeah.
But you can't take your vehicle. So we knew we wanted to stay in that campground. And then we thought, well, you know what? We want to spend at least one night, and we got one night at the Riley campground on the highway that goes between Fairbanks and Anchorage, so that we can go to the visitor center, see the sled dogs, all the
Yes.
stuff that's up there. So those reservations we made, I believe, January 5th.
Yes.
For July, mid-July. And
And
folks,
there weren't.
we got in. I mean, we didn't have a problem, but you wanted to do that. And then when I started getting a little bit more serious about where are we going to stay, we wanted to stay as close to the Canadian border as we could,
Yes.
so that when we go into Canada, we're fresh, we're excited,
Yes.
we're ready. And realize that Glacier National Park really is the closest. And last year we were on the west side, so this year we have reservations on the east side.
And it's going to.
And there were only, I think, 2 sites left. We made those reservations in the 1st of February, February 3rd, maybe something like that, but for mid-June, and it was almost booked solid. So if you're planning to go, you need to plan far enough ahead that if you're going to have reservations, you get them early.
Yeah.
And if you're going to want any kind of hookups, water, electric, etc., watch channels that have used those kinds of sites and see what their experience is. We have seen, and this is driving me nuts, that there's an abundance of free and first come sites if you don't require hookups, that in British Columbia, Yukon, and Alaska. So that's what we're planning.
And that's. Even if they are inexpensive sites, it's not as inexpensive as free.
Yeah. And so,
And that's honestly the free sites that we've had on a lot of these trips, that's at least part of the reason we're able to afford
to
the
go.
trip.
Yeah. And then another thing is with the planning, as you plan out where you want to go, what things you want to see, if there are things you want to be a part of, one of the things that set our dates, we wanted to stay in Alaska until the first or second week in September, start home, because that's when weather starts changing up there and everything. But by staying up a little bit later, there's a chance that it'll be getting dark. And so you're not going to see the northern lights if it never gets dark. If we don't see the northern lights, that's
We're
fine.
not going to say, well, it ruined the trip. It didn't, but it would sure be a bonus if we got to
We
see
wanted
them.
to give ourselves a chance to see the
Yes.
northern lights, and so that's kind of why we decided to go a little bit later than and the season up there is essentially mid-May through mid-September if you want the summer months. And so while we're up there, things that are kind of setting part of our route is when we made the reservations at Denali, it literally was throwing a dart at a calendar.
Yes.
And decided we'll make sure we're at Denali when we have reservations, and then we'll go back and explore whatever we want to explore. Those kinds of things set the date. And then we just this last week realized that the Alaska State Fair
Yes.
is going to be going on while we're there. And folks, we're looking at it, and we may have to drive 200 miles out of the way to go.
Out of 5,000.
But we're not driving 5,000 miles to go to the Alaska
Yes,
State Fair.
and-
We're up there. It's going to be after we've already passed Palmer.
It's going to be different things than this Texas State Fair. That's guaranteed.
And so we're like, you know what? It's going to be going on while we're there, so let's go.
Yeah.
So being open to those kinds of things, And that's another thing that these channels have just, if you have a limited amount of time, you're going to have to plan everything.
Good luck.
and you can have an itinerary and get that done. The other thing we want to say about planning, and I should have said this at the very beginning, is if you just cannot stand the thought of trying to plan this yourself, there are caravans that you can take your RV
Yes.
and be a part of, and they will plan, they'll have reservations, they'll have excursions you can choose from, all of those kinds of things, and it's done for you. We want to be able to, once we get up there, our expenses are going to be fuel and groceries.
Yes.
And that's another thing about Alaska on a budget is we're going to be fixing most of our own meals.
Yes.
When we see something that's kind of unique to the area, like we did a pasty in Michigan,
Yes.
absolutely. Try it out. Or the huckleberry ice cream at Yellowstone, West Yellowstone, that was awesome. Those kinds of things, yeah, we're going to do that. But anyway, this is our planning. Our preparing, we're going to share with you things that we're getting done,
Yes.
that we're purchasing or making sure we have before we get started. So we are super excited, and if you're kind of like, wow, that sounds like a lot, we are right there with you.
Yes.
And we hope that by your watching our journey,
Well, along with others.
that maybe we can encourage you to also, hey, this is a little bit beyond our comfort zone, but man, we are looking forward to it.
Yes.
So we hope you'll join us for Alaska on a Budget. Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.